One of the most useful calculations for an economist studying economic growth is having a way to calculate whether economic growth has occurred. One of the ways economic growth can be measured is using percent change in real GDP. In this short video tutorial, you will learn the formula for calculating the percent growth in GDP, the procedure for calculating the percent growth in GDP, and how to calculate percent growth in GDP by working through an example of the procedure. The formula for calculating the percent change in real GDP is the change in real GDP divided by the starting value of GDP. The formula can be rewritten so that there is a way to calculate the change in GDP. The new formula is ending real GDP minus starting real GDP divided by starting real GDP. It is important to note that while we could use any time period to do this calculation, days, weeks, months, or years, most of the time we will use years in our examples to find the annual percent change in real GDP. The procedure for calculating the percent change in real GDP is 1. Write down the formula, ending real GDP minus starting real GDP divided by starting GDP times 100%. 2. Substitute in the most recent time period for the ending GDP. Substitute in the oldest time period for the starting GDP. Subtract the oldest time period from the most recent time period. Divide the subtraction by the oldest time period. Multiply the result by 100%. Let's look at an example. Let's look at an example of calculating the percent growth in GDP. South Korea's real GDP in 2007 was $1.329 trillion. In 2008, its GDP was $1.360 trillion. What is the percent growth in South Korea's GDP from 2007 to 2008? The first step is to write down the formula, ending real GDP minus starting GDP divided by starting GDP times 100%. First, we need to decide what the ending real GDP is in the problem. Since the most recent year mentioned in the problem is 2008, it will be substituted into the problem for the ending real GDP. Next, we need to find out what will be substituted in for the starting real GDP. Next, we need to find an older date to substitute into the formula for the starting real GDP. Since 2007 comes before 2008, it will be substituted in for the starting real GDP. Next, let's substitute in the values into the formula. The next step is to substitute a value in for the real GDP for 2008 into the formula. Since the value of the real GDP at the beginning of 2008 was $1.360 trillion, $1.360 trillion will be substituted in the formula for the real GDP in 2008. Next, we need to substitute in the value for the real GDP in 2007. Since the value of real GDP in 2007 was $1.329 trillion, next we're going to need to subtract 1.329 trillion from 1.360 trillion. The difference between 1.630 trillion and 1.329 trillion is 0.031 trillion. Next, we're going to divide 0.031 trillion by 1.329 trillion. Which gives 0.023325808. We're going to round that off to 0.0 0.23. Next, we're going to multiply 0.023 times 100%, which gives 2.3%. So the growth in real GDP in South Korea between 2007 and 2008 was 2.3%.